Michael Lee Hill, welcome back to Nature of Reality Radio on this Mother's Day edition of the show. I'm giving you 35 minutes for a show tonight because the last show you suddenly went dead after you were talking about Enki and crop circles, and you said the words birthday cake, as anybody who listened to our last interview would have known, and then you suddenly got off the air. So now you're back here for this show, and I'll let you pick up from there. I do seem to have a pretty good idea of everything that you said on the last show, so I'm not going to have you regurgitate that stuff. And I don't know if we went into great detail about the 432 hertz thing. You mentioned it in passing a few times, but there was a few things wanted to get out about that. I'll take a quick scan at your YouTube videos while you're talking here, see if anything jumps out at me. I already did it before the show, and nothing really seemed to come up. But I'll do it one more time. I'll make sure I listen to you and everything. But I just want to do
Okay.
that so I get an idea of what else we missed because there were a couple of things that I had on my mind that I wanted to talk to you about, and in this program. So we'll get to that. But for now, you know where you left off. Enki, the crop circle thing, and the birthday cake, whatever that was about. So why don't you pick up from there?
Perfect. And thank you for the opportunity. And this actually worked out good because, man, we had so much technical difficulties last time, and now everything's working. And so I can actually show you what I'm talking about, which is great. Yeah, the birthday cake. When I met the Anunnaki in 2008, they told me they were once known as the Anunnaki and that I was once known as Ea Inki, the water bearer. So that didn't make any sense to me whatsoever because there was no ancient aliens even on TV or anything. I didn't know what an Anunnaki even was. So at the end of 2008, we were in communication through meditation, telepathy. I said, listen, if you are who you say you are, and I am who you say I am, encode the name Ea Inki into a crop circle. And I can tell you I will take notice because I'm a student of the subject. And that's where the birthday cake comes into play because in my mind, I thought, man, what a silly request. It would probably just look like a big crop circle, like a birthday cake with Inky written in cursive. Well, what's that going to prove? My next thought was, well, you know what? If you are who you say you are, figure out a cool way to do it. And I said, while you're at it, encode it with something only I would be able to decode. Got cocky about it. Well, 2 years went by, and in that 2 years is when I was guided into cosmic harmonious frequencies that all revolve around the most harmonious cosmic frequency, which is 432 hertz. But during that time, I started researching cymatics, which is the making visible of what was once invisible. It makes frequency visible. But sure enough, in 2011, this crop circle showed up in Perono, Italy. And what's cool here is see these little lines. It's like empty, filled, empty, empty, filled. Everyone's different. That spells out Ea space Inky. So, they did respond to my request, and that's what started this communication that they started using crop circles as almost like a chalkboard in this cosmic classroom. And the next thing that happened is I found out the year previous to this one that I just showed, this showed up in the same city. And what I found out was this one, in these circles with the little dots, it's ASCII binary code as well, and it spells out E equals MC squared. So I started to realize crop circles are communicating multidimensionally, meaning they might give information one year that really is only put in place the next year. And the Arecibo crop circle is a perfect example. We sent out in a crop circle that Carl Sagan had designed. Your listeners are probably familiar with what I'm talking about, but the point is that at the bottom of that diagram that we sent out was our method of communication, and it was a little pictorial of a satellite. Well, in 2001, we got the response, and in their response, everything had been changed to correspond to their culture. And at the bottom, where we used a satellite to show that's how we communicated, theirs was mind bubbles. But the year previous, in the exact same field, was an HD version of that particular symbol that showed up at the bottom of theirs. And so I knew that they used time to elaborate on ideas. So I thought, well, wait a minute. If this one says E equals, again, I'll just show you. If this one is saying E equals MC squared, and this one is showing a 7-pointed star that is produced when you put a 4 octaves
Oh,
below.
okay, if you're trying to show this to me, I can't see it because your camera's not on, and it's not even gonna. There's no sense of putting it on anyway because this is audio only. So I don't know if you were
Oh,
trying, but
oh
never.
yeah,
Don't even bother putting it on. So
I am showing up a storm.
okay, don't worry about it. Just know this is audio, and people have to use their imaginations. Just give a good description of the crop circle, so maybe they can type the description in a
Yeah,
search
you know
engine and
what? They
come
can
up.
see all these images by just going to my website, michaelleehill.net. Go to the blog, and I'm sure you'll find these. But the 3 following crop circles was, I believe it was 2015, was another 7-pointed star crop circle, which is 432 related. As I said, only a 4 octaves below 432 frequency, which is 27 hertz. It's really easy, man. To get to a lower octave of any frequency, you just divide by 2. So just because you got your piano tuned properly, in the middle A note, well, there's still a lower A note. That one's 216, and then 108, and then 54, and then 27. So it's really important to know that when you pump 27 hertz through a cymatic scientific device, you'll see a perfect 7-pointed star is manifested out of nothing alone but frequency. So it's really important in the whole scheme of things, because you'll find out, like the Cherokee, their symbol for their tribe is a 7-pointed star. The ancient world map of Babylon is on a 7-pointed star. But anyhow, and then in 2017, another 7-pointed crop circle showed up, and these ones were no longer in Italy. These were along, that St. Michael's ley line, going through the UK, where Avebury and Stonehenge and all those ancient sites. By the way, that St. Michael's ley line, if you type in, just look into what's a circle when you divide it by 7? It's 51.428. So 51.428 is forever tied to a 7-pointed star. It marks where the next, point of that star will be. And 7 of those around will get you a perfect circle. Well, that ley line that goes through England, it's just fact. It's 51.428 latitude. No one's put those 2 pieces together yet. But anyhow, that crop circle was surrounded by 14 symbols, which turns out to be the Mayan calendar Baktun symbol, which is one count of the long count in the Mayan calendar. And each one of those Baktuns is 144,000 days. So everyone thought after the 13th Baktun, we were going to have, Armageddon, but they didn't understand. It's just the end of the old processional cycle of the age of Pisces. And when we enter the age of Aquarius, there is no 14th Baktun, because it becomes the first Baktun of, the new cycle, which is the age of Aquarius. Now, mind you, I asked them to encode all these crop circles with Inky. Well, you find out Inky's symbol back in Sumer was the crescent moon, or the eclipsed moon. And same thing, as you mentioned before, it's becoming known that Inky was known as Poseidon and Neptune. But Poseidon, Aquarius, Inky was always shown as water erupting from his shoulders or holding a pail of water. And Aquarius is the guy holding the bucket of water. It's a sign that you're dealing with, the water bearer sign.
And out of curiosity, I just sorry to interrupt you, but also
Yeah.
Poseidon, the one weird thing about him, he's also the god of horses. Did Enki have connection to horses?
Not that I know of. That's interesting, but I know deer. People know Inky's clan was called the Serpent Clan or the Dragons, but even later on down the timeline, he was known. That group of people was known as the Stag Clan, which is, a male deer. But no, that's interesting about the horses. Uh, but this crop circle, 14 Baktuns is on it. That means it marks the transition from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. It wasn't 2012 because, as we're talking about, the Anunnaki gave us even how we keep time. If you look at how many seconds is in 12 hours, it's 43,200. That's a 432. All 432 base numbers resolve to 9, meaning 4 plus 3 plus 2 equals 9. It's lower octave. 216. 2 plus 1 plus 6 equals 9. Well, 2012 doesn't resolve to a 9. So right then, I'm like, wait a minute. This can't be the end of their calendar because it's not how they even keep time. And sure enough, the next year that actually resolves to a 9 was 2016. And when you take those 14 Baktuns in that crop circle, if each Baktun is 144,000 days, just multiply it by the 14. And what you get is 201600000000. Keeps going on. But 2016 is the actual accurate date of us entering the age of Aquarius. As I said, the age of Aquarius is truly the age of Enki, because Zecharia Sitchin even stated in one of his books that, Aquarius was a prototype archetype of Enki. They were both water bearers and holders of buckets of water. And then the last one is also right around that St. Michael's ley line of 51.428, which is exactly 1/7 the way around the circle, shows up another crop circle in 2017. And this one's really important as well. It shows the new seed of life for humanity. We've known the six-petaled version, which looks like the Star of David, and it's how all energy takes form. But imagine that shape is the template for three-dimensional existence, and imagine evolving into a seven-petaled seed of life. That how much more freedom of movement. And so those are the 5 crop circles that guided me into creating these 432 energy discs that I create. And that's when, because of Richard Hoagland, NASA got involved and proved that these devices, these crystal discs, it's the image actually that contains the mojo, but they revitalize and resurrect dead municipal tap water. And I have all the scientific data from NASA, all the photography and all the results. So water bearer, yeah, I guess so, but that's where we were, and that's in a nutshell what we're going to get into.
Okay, well, there were some other subjects here that I'm looking at, and I think this is coming back to me. Seeing some of the videos you have here on your YouTube channel, I would actually like, in the time that we have left, you have stuff to say about mound builders and Iroquois Native Americans seem to be the tribe of choice that you've decided to do a video on some of these videos I see. So saw a great presentation by Ross Ben about the mound builders and what he thinks they're about, but I'll give you the chance to spill the beans on what you know and what is it about the Iroquois of all the tribes that made you decide to glorify them in some video here.
First of all, that's my people. I am Iroquois.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
Seneca. There's 6 tribes now, 5 for a long time. But the easiest way to tell you is the Native American Indians themselves know that the remnants of the Atlanteans are now intertwined into the North American Indian tribes. And Edgar Cayce said the same thing, by the way. A lot of people know that he did prophecy on the Hall of Records of the Atlanteans, and like there's one under the Sphinx's paw, but not a lot of people seem to be hip to the fact that he also said what happened to the Atlanteans. He said they first came up into the bottom of the North American continent 10,500 years ago. There was two Earth changes prior to that, but the one we're talking about is 10,500 years ago. And the first people they met were the indigenous Mayan. And, they're the ones that taught them the Mayan calendar and pyramid building. But at that point, there had been an experiment to accelerate human conscious evolution by the Anunnaki to help us be more prepared for this time. So darkness set in pretty badly, and they started sacrificing people and whatnot. So the elders were like, well, it's time to get out of Dodge. I don't think they're getting it. So they came up through the middle of the North American continent and became known as the North American Indian mound builders. And by the way, Chief Golden Light Eagle, you've seen me at one of the Star Knowledge conferences. I am, even through my own people, I am their messenger, appointed. Chief said he wants start bringing Star Knowledge into Florida, and I am their appointed messenger, speaking on behalf of the mound builders. What I can tell you is these same 432 base numbers, not only are they encoded into like the Sumerian Kings list and the Kali Yuga long cycles, they equal up to 432,000. 432,000 years was the Mayan long year, great year that Marduk had set up. So 432 that's where the Atlanteans went to in becoming the mound builders. All of these mound builder sites, like in Newark, Ohio, you'll find one wall will be 2,160. Another wall of that site will be 1,080 feet long. Well, that's 216 and 180. Those are octaves of 432. It's like they've encoded this knowledge into everything and have truly been waiting for us to wake up. And obviously they're patient. And obviously if they meant us harm, we wouldn't be talking. But that's the deal is, and they know this, by the way. Chief Golden Light Eagle came up to me and said, "Oh, you're one of those Indians from the Great Lakes area, huh?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, you're one of those Atlanteans, heavy duty." And one of the grandmothers came to me and said, "We're so thankful that you are releasing, we've known," she said, "for 5,000 years of written history and 13,000 years of oral history that the mound builders are the remnants of the Atlanteans." Well, Edgar Casey said once they left the Mayan culture and went up through the middle of the United States of America, they intertwined and intermingled into the Iroquois tribe of Indians, the Seneca specifically. But what I have found out from the Native American Indian elders is that the Iroquois have the most numbers of the Nephilim bloodline, but the Sioux, the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota have retained their star knowledge the most out of all the tribes.
Cool. Golden Light Eagle is a fascinating guy, although there was something he kind of said at that 2017 conference, and his wife too, that kind of would put people in danger. He actually suggested that it's safe to sun gaze with the eyes open even at solar noon on the summer solstice. And lots of people have damaged their eyes trying to do that. He asserted, when I questioned him about that, well, how do you explain that? He asserted that those people are not in the right state of mind. However, when I talked to Akashic Records reader Andrew Bartzis about this, Bartzis did actually do a presentation several years ago where he actually suggested that sun gazing can be done whenever you get up, even if you sleep in on a Saturday and have to do it at 2 in the afternoon. And he suggested that it's safe to do with open eyes when he said it bypasses the physical, the electromagnetic energy does. But then when I did a private session with him and I told him I do it with the eyes open all times, he told me only do that during sunrise and sunset during that hour period, do it with the eyes closed. Otherwise, he was trying to hinting I was a little too much in la la land and thinking too much that humans have too much infinite consciousness potential. When I said that it's okay to do it with open eyes, I didn't take into account the fact that in this matrix, our bodies are not really designed to handle that kind of overload, even if sunlight is a good thing. That's why we get sunburn. Your body's basically saying overload,
Yeah.
overload, too much of a good thing. So Golden Light Eagle, when he said that, he's kind of putting people in danger. How his wife managed to get her vision restored, as she alleges, by sun gazing, I don't know, but
Right.
that's something that needs to be addressed. And maybe since you know the guy, maybe you can explain, knowing him better, why he would be so confident that humans can do something like that without suffering damage when evidence
Well,
shows
he
otherwise.
witnesses it. I was invited to one of their most sacred ancient ceremonies, and that is the sun dance. And not only do those sun dancers gaze into the sun 24/7, but they never stop moving. They're always dancing in place. But not only that, they fast and they do not drink any water for 4 days, which I thought that was impossible to go without water. But I witnessed it with my own two eyes, and none of them have eye issues. I can't do it. From what I understand, the the only time that you can truly gaze into the sun is, like you said, at sunset and at sunrise. And it's because where it is on the horizon, you don't even have to squint. You can keep your eyes fully open. And it is truly a miracle for the human body because, you know, people know vitamin D is in sunshine, but not a lot of people know um, lithium is carried in sunlight. So not only do you get vitamin D and you get all these minerals, but you get a dose of lithium, which is truly soothing for the soul, and it's natural. So that's why a lot of people get addicted to sun gazing. As far as midday, the brightest time of the day, as I said, all I can tell you, I don't do it, but I did get to go to a Sundance and I seen them myself with my own two eyes do it, and none of them have eye problems. So
Hmm.
I get, I guess that's all I can say.
All right. Oh, and by the way, I just discovered something very weird. You
Mhm.
actually hold the distinction of being the first guest I've ever had on this show who I've actually had on more than once without realizing the second time I had them on was the second time I had them on. I see I actually did an interview with you over a year ago. I have no recollection of that. I remember a lot, but I don't remember that. Apparently, you don't remember that either. Go figure.
No, that's
Well,
weird.
yeah, I saw that just now on your list of videos. So, well, what we discussed in that interview, hey, I don't know. People are welcome to listen to that too, but I see you haven't uploaded your one that you did with me the second time, or have you yet? Uh,
No, I
I don't
need
see.
to ask you even where to find it. I've not seen it.
Well, it's on my channel. So by all means, upload that one too. Everything happens for a reason. You're worthy enough to be a guest 3 times apparently, and there's a reason why they didn't want me to remember having you a first time, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have asked you, because I'm always trying to get different guests on this show. So
Well,
wow, funny
it
things
was
happen.
timely. I have a lot more to share now than I did then. I was actually getting tired of doing interviews because, everything that I talk about is just things that happen in my life, and there's no other way to tell it. So I was getting, kind of tired of me. And this whole 432 thing kind of rejuvenated me because now I can talk about something else other than me.
Oh, so that wouldn't have been in the interview from last time apparently.
No, this is
Oh,
all new stuff
yeah,
that
and
happened.
it's an interesting fact that I recently interviewed Oxniley, who David Icke always promotes, not always, but in many of his videos that before he got kicked off YouTube, was promoting in the beginning of the video, saying this David Icke broadcast is brought to you, well, not really brought to you by, but something else he said about any Oxnalia, who's all about 4032. I did a recent interview with her about that, so there definitely has to be something significant about that frequency. And you did say in our last interview that there is good evidence that we will eventually realize, humanity will, that it was a stupid idea to go to 440 hertz, and you do expect us to, the music industries of the world, to go back to 432. I think that's kind of important. We need to stress that, because
Dude,
if we
I
did that, so much harmony would come back to Earth if people did that.
I
And
think it's going to happen just from a grassroots level, because once a musician finds this out and they retune their instrument and they feel how much more resonant it is, an acoustic guitar, when it's tuned to 432, it vibrates your innards, unlike when I go back to 440, because mind you, if I go to a musician's night or jam night, they're going to be tuned in 440. So I have to retune my instruments now, and they're lifeless. They feel like it's just such a difference to be a performer and a musician for yourself, because it's not the sound that changes when you tune to 432. There's more information in the signal that equates to how much, like the intensity of how you feel a kick drum or, a guitar or bass or whatever, like in your insides. It's just like there's an intensity knob and you've turned it up from 6 to 10. So once a musician does that, it'll take care of itself. I can tell you Prince is the only musician I know of that, when he went, because he was totally anti like social media, but when he did finally make a YouTube, he said, for the next 8 hours, I'll answer any question that comes in. At the end of the day, he only answered one question, and that is, should we retune our music to 432? And his only answer was the golden standard, and he put a link to yes, why we should be, looking into this. I'll tell you what, I did a video with a guy named Gary Light, and it's called 369 and 432, a key to the universe, I believe, something like that. Google it, and it's over 2.5 million views now. People are being really drawn to it. And I'm really proud of it, and it'll give you a real good background on the subject and how it relates back to the Anunnaki, even.
Okay, that's great. Now there was something else I noticed here. I seem to have lost the video. Well, there was another one here I might as well bring up. Seems to be the video here where you mentioned has a crop circle in the video logo, and it says something about the NSA and crop circles and Indians. The NSA, now they're basically the shadow government of America. Was there
Yeah.
something in that video that you wanted to say about them? What connection
Well,
do they have to crop circles? What was that video about?
I was approached by the head of the ACIO, which is the Alien Contact Interface Organization. They're the branch of the NSA that deals in reverse engineering and the remote viewers group, because they found to communicate with different walks of extraterrestrials, you need to, remote view. You need to know how to send your consciousness elsewhere and perceive. And so they're kind of wrapped into two. And he contacted me back in 2008 and brought me into the fold, specifically telling me, in this course of study that we're going to put you in, you're going to learn about cosmic harmonious frequencies. Imagine that. And he said, not to create matter, not only do you need very specific frequencies, but you need specific frequencies in specific sequences. Well, that's a song, ain't it? It's really, I think, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where they use music. But anyhow, that's the deal with the NSA. I was brought in 2008, and I worked under the head of those programs. Truly, the planet's true president. When extraterrestrials come to this planet, they don't talk to Trump. They don't talk to Putin. They talk to people who are like the Teslas of this time, who have a grip on what they call new life physics. And so I was brought into the fold to actually help. They knew I was in communication with the Anunnaki, and it was to help mankind during that 2012 timeline. People think nothing happened. It was a big non-event. They have no clue what kind of work was being done behind the scenes to help humanity. But that's the NSA part. Obviously, there's a whole lot more there. I have all the learning material I've ever been given. I have my tasking instructions. One of our missions was to take the energy out of Hurricane Sandy, because they knew it was being steered artificially into New York. So that was one of the things we did. And it's interesting to show you how some of this worked. Is they said, we know you're not a weatherman, but we're going to give you all the most accurate data on the storm. You know, its wind speed, its power, its strength, its trajectory. And all we need you to do is lay your eyes on it, and you know you're going to become their iPhone. You know, it's been verified that you have a connection, so they're going to be looking through your eyes. They'll know what to do with this data. You don't need to know what to do with it. So I have all those tasking instructions and all the learning material. But what I didn't realize is part of this was the crop circles. You know, I kind of looked at it that as something different than the physical 3D. Yeah, I was brought into this group by the NSA, but the truth of the matter is they're already working since the late 1950s with certain factions of the Anunnaki in technology transfer programs. So, you know, from both sides, the Anunnaki took me into a program that, you know, some of these crop circles, like I said, I asked them for, and then they showed up. The last one was exactly the same. They had showed me what they call the Ark of the Covenant, and it was that 51.428 arc. And they showed it being mirrored with itself. And right when they did that, if you think about it, it would make an eye shape. And I thought, wow, I wonder what a seven-pointed star would look like with that Ark of the Covenant arc eye. And the next day, it showed up into a crop circle for real in the UK. I was like, well, thank you. This is getting pretty instantaneous, you know. But that's the big deal about that crop circle is, like I said, it shows the evolution from a six-petaled flower of life that creates the Merkaba Star of David shape, and it's all straight lines, by the way, into this new seven-petaled seed of life. So instead of even when cells divide, they take on the shape of that six-petaled version right now. So imagine in a new reality that when a baby is born, its cells will divide into a seven-petaled seed of life. I look at it, six-petaled as like the cocoon phase of humanity, and the seven-petaled version is the template for 5D existence.
Cool. Yeah, the number seven seems to be popping up a lot in my life recently. Even heard about the Seven Seal Summit that they're going to have in November. And recent interview I saw M and Miss M and Joseph P. Anthony. Maybe I'll go to that. But one thing
The
I
seven
didn't want to.
seals, dude, is the chakras, you know? Remember we were talking about, you know, once you've cleaned all your seven chakras, they emit light and it's the color of the rainbow. Well, the seventh seal, like once you break the seals, it's cleaning of the chakras. It's just a whole other way of explaining rainbow consciousness or just existing with your chakra centers that have been cleansed and balanced. It's what we all need to do. And I think we can all get there. You know, it's just learning how to do it for ourselves. No one can do it for you. You know, you got to swim the moat yourself.
Right. Now there is a video here I see stands out to me because I've been getting a lot of talismans and pendants recently. A lot of them made of sterling silver as part of my
Ah,
horoscope readings, suggesting to spice up my life and try to attract things through like making an altar and whatnot. And one of the pendants I'm seeing here, Tree of Peace pendant, sort of looks like a gray alien's eyes there.
no, dude, it's the peace symbol in its proper orientation. It doesn't look
Oh,
like an alien though, doesn't it? You know, again, Chief Golden Light Eagle, he told me, you know, if those hippies in the 60s would have used it in its proper orientation, it's always been made to be a tree, meant to be a tree. He said it would have changed the world, but when you fly a symbol upside down, it has the exact opposite effect. So if upside right, it's called the Algier in Nordic runes, and it's the spell for divine protection. Well, if it's upside down, well, not so much protection, but it also fits into the story of Moroni and the story of the peacemaker who united the Iroquois. The peacemaker overturned a giant white pine for all of the warriors of the tribes to put their weapons of war and their thought forms of war into the pit that the tree left. And at a certain point in time, that tree was uprighted again, marking the end of that old time period of strife and darkness and war. Same story is in the Book of Mormon. Moroni, who was the angel who visited Joseph Smith, He told him, I lived many lifetimes as a Native American Indian. But in that story, the same story of the tree being turned over, which is fascinating. Um, so yeah, I'm very proud of that piece. And what happened was I was working with a jeweler anyhow because of my friendship with David Sarita. And I told him the story about Chief Golden Light Eagle telling me they should have been flown the other way. He said, "Why don't we make it and release it to the world?" And it's up. And I said, "Hell yeah!" So thank you for asking.
Yeah. All right. One last question. And since you mentioned David Sarita, I can't help but ask you this. And his documentary, he brought it up too when I had him on the show. I did watch that. It was a great documentary from here to Andromeda. Although the one comment that I left on that video after I saw it, please don't take offense to this comment, but the only comment I left after watching that for the first time was, "Global warming is a hoax, you ignorant, gullible fools." Anything that comes out of Al Gore's mouth is hot air. Okay, so you obviously got suckered into believing the global warming lie in regards to using that as an excuse to want to leave Earth to go to Andromeda. But other than that, the documentary was great regarding the technology and stuff you suggested. But does David Sarita, out of curiosity, know that he was suckered into believing the global warming lie because everything that comes out of Gore's mouth is hot air, no pun intended?
Um, I talk to Fred now more than he's the jeweler, than I do David. David and we have difference of opinion. I'm a big fan of David from his physics viewpoint, and also what I liked about David was the case for NASA UFOs and his research into that. Uh, Otherwise, there's some things that he subscribes to, and I don't necessarily. I happen to think, you know what, global warming, we're going through a cycle anyhow that will be earth changing, and the climate changes, but
It's
it
man-made global warming that's a hoax. The idea that we're ruining the climate, we need to give up our rights for that. That's what I meant when I said.
yeah, but you know what, man, I don't even like to even address that point of it, because the point is we should be better caretakers, because what we're doing with Fukushima and nuclear energy and dumping pollution into waterways, and when you understand water is alive and it has memory, what we're doing to water, and Trump rolling back 50 years of protection on waterways, it's insanity and it's suicide. So very many things we have to learn to become better caretakers. And there's no doubt that what we're doing is affecting this planet. Is it the reason of all global warming? No, man. We're going through a cycle of great change, and even the electromagnetic field around this planet is like at zero. It's a cyclical ending of a cycle, and I just don't like the idea of, I don't really put that forth much, because I really do think we need to learn to become better caretakers of this planet. And that's something we can learn from the Native American Indians. They're experts at living in harmony with Mother Earth and not taxing the land, and living in union with it. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did, and this was a banging third interview. Didn't even know I did the first one with you, as I told you, but it was definitely worth a
I,
while, especially since you had new stuff to talk about. So thank you so much. I will make sure I get this uploaded to YouTube by midnight tomorrow, and by all means, you can upload it too, and by all means, upload the other one. There are websites out there where if you know can take a YouTube video, convert it into an MP3, and then of course you can convert that MP3 into a video compatible format. So I guess you could do that with my video, which is on the Nature of Reality Radio YouTube channel. That's where you can find that one. So if you want to do that, that's up to you.
oh, yeah, man,
Pleasure having you on.
I
And
really enjoyed our talk. It's nice talking with someone so up to date on their knowledge of the subject, and I really appreciate you giving me a chance to share. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but that From Here to Andromeda, I'm a full partner in that film as well.
yes, I think you just said that on the last interview. So, and
Yeah,
I didn't get a chance to ask you about the global warming being a hoax and how that was the one
it's all
blip.
good.
Yeah, it's cool. cool. All right. Take care. Happy Mother's Day. And enjoy the rest of your Trek Without Infinite Consciousness. I'll see you at a conference in the future, I'm sure.
Right
Take
on.
care.
Stellar.